Hi, how
Hi
are
there.
you?
I'm fantastic. Getting better and better by the second. How are you doing?
Yes, you are getting better and better by the second. So I'm like so good, and I'm so excited to interview you because you're super intriguing. I love what you're up to and what you're doing, and just thanks for joining me here on the show. And I have to ask you because for someone where we have not met in person, why did you say yes to this? What's your intention of being here?
I'm Mike. My full name is Mike Lesnik, but Mas is the term for Mr. or teacher in the Indonesian martial
Oh,
arts and Indonesian language. So they just call me Mas Mike because,
that's out of
um, uh,
respect for the work you're doing.
yeah, kind
Yeah.
of yes, in Japanese martial arts, they call him sensei or something like that. I by branding people and all that, they say, no, Moss Mike. We want to because when you try to pronounce my last name, it I can always tell when telemarketers are calling me.
There you go. My name's Danette, and I'll refer to you as Mike then.
Moss Mike is what they prefer. I don't care what
Okay.
you call me. I'm just
Okay.
honored to be here. But yeah, Danette, I wanted to make sure I'm particular. I really like it to know people's names. So thank you. And I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
you
So
know,
why did you say yes to coming on the show? What was your intention?
to meet the coolest people ever, and I think I found her.
The coolest. Wow, what a profound
Actually,
statement.
this is only like my fourth podcast, sweetie. I've been behind the curtain doing the work and trying to get everything prepped and set out there. And then I have an amazing marketing team that put all this together. And I just said, okay, I trust you guys. Make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time. And with that in mind, I find that life is like full of adventures and excitement. There is no ordinary moments. And I always leave room for magic because it has a tendency to show up. And
Absolutely.
here I am. So I'm sorry, sweetie. I wish that I could say that I'm a big fan of your show and I've been watching it forever and whatever, but I'm new to this. So please go easy on me, gentle and all that. And I just want to have a lot of fun and
You know what?
have a
Everything is in
great show
divine
for you.
timing, truly. And I really actually this answer a lot because it lets me know that you're really led by energy and that's what you teach. And you're really led by that. And I really only ask guests to be on here that I'm intrigued with. I had a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to just do a podcast or do a show that I really, truly, my soul needs to be curious. My soul wants to seek to understand if it's someone's different perspective or if it's something like what you're doing, which I think is really important right now. And I can't even express how excited I am that humanity is going to even be grasping these tools and these ways that you're sharing that you've been doing before. It's going to get even cooler. And I think that you can feel this energy wave's going to be stirring up even more just because I think people are getting more and more open to all of these different forms of energy. And it's just such an honor to be able to bring someone on who is really living and breathing this philosophy. And so we're going to back up a little bit, you guys. If you're watching this show on YouTube, on another platform where it's video streaming, you're going to see, I'm going to play this video that actually his team sent to me because it really encapsulates what he's doing and what he's doing behind the scenes. He's not on podcast tours. He's working with the people. He's teaching these methodologies and you can check him out on Gaia as well. But I'm going to play that video.
By doing quadrant cleansing, trust me, you're learning about how your circuits work. By doing pain cleansing, you're really focusing in on it.
Our job is not to wake up the sheep. It's to wake up the other lions. You gotta find who you resonate with. Don't spend your time trying to soar like an eagle when you're working with turkeys. Go freaking find the eagles.
For those who are listening, can you explain vibration? I love this way of Vibra Vision, right? Is that how you say it? Vibra Vision?
Perfect. Yes.
Vibra
Perfect.
Vision, not vibration, but it's like that. But you're talking
Well,
about vibration with vision, right? Like you're able to see with
well,
vibration.
it's actually, it's so much more than that.
Okay,
But
tell
yes.
me.
So, long story short, this comes from the royal family of Java, Indonesia. And it was originally based in pranayama and kundalini yoga back in the 1550s. The prince of Indonesia was on sabbatical there and he saw them practicing and he already had intuitive energy sensitivity. So he went back and started tweaking some things and figured out, hey, if you do it a little different, you can get the result 10 times faster. And then passed it to his son, who passed it to his son. And they kept it within the royal family and was never seen outside for 450 years, down through 11 generations. There was a massive civil war. They weren't in ruling power anymore, but the communists and the socialists were having this huge civil war kind of thing. And they killed 500,000 people in the streets in 6 months. And at that time, the 11th and 10th generation heirs decided we should do something about this. If everybody could see what we see and feel what we feel, then they would see that we're all connected. And when I hurt you, I'm actually hurting me. So they were underground running from the governments on both sides, hits on them and all the things. They released this to the Indonesian public and it became the third largest martial art in the world within 3 years. They had over 1 million practicing members and completely changed their entire culture and awakened everybody to their intuition and to the energy that binds all of us. Became standard training for every branch of the military, the special forces, Secret Service. They even teach it in schools, police forces, securities, all kinds of things. It's like part of their culture, but they'd never shared it with anyone on the outside. And Vibravision is actually just one piece of the full martial art. The full martial art is called Merpati Putih, which is a mouthful. It means white dove in Bahasa Indonesia, the national Indonesian language, but peace and justice for all of humanity. And it's incredible. It literally creates the most powerful super soldiers on the planet, but it's all like real life Jedis. You have to be a superhero, not a super villain. We're really aiming and directed it very much like you. And I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for mentioning that your only goal here is for you to be inspired, for you to follow paths that are in alignment with you, because that's the ultimate goal that I think all of us humans are on, is to find what is right for us, not what somebody else tells us, not what dogma or ritual or tradition has necessarily dictated, because it's a new day and age and we are awakening faster and faster to the fact that we have the answers, that no one else can actually tell us, that we have to take the trip on the inside. And it's amazing because it's like Disneyland. You just got to go get through the gates and it can be so much fun.
That's amazing. So I have to ask, what year was this when they let everyone have access to it and it grew for 3 years? What year was that in Indonesia?
1963.
So not
They
very long
actually,
ago.
no, it's about 63 years now, I think, or 64
Yeah.
years that we're working
Wow.
on now. but they actually released it to the Indonesian public, but they never released it to outsiders. It was an ethnic Indonesian,
Practice.
yeah, it was like their cultural heritage, and they consider it a national treasure. So they said no outsiders. And in 1999, we became the very first outsiders, and we've been on a 25-year-long odyssey to bring it into the Western world and put it under the microscope and prove that science and spirit can coexist, and they're supposed to. We just didn't have the right technology at the time to make them meet. And that's what I've been doing for the last 25 years, is trying to bring all of the Eastern paradigm and the ancient wisdom into the Western world and say, hey, what about all these things that you can't explain? Look, we can explain them, and they work together, and we can put one foot in the 3D world and one foot in the 5D world, because we're supposed to have access to both. We can put the head and the heart together, and we can be superhuman, or I like to call it superhuman, because we each have the power.
Wow, this is really fascinating. So in 1999, what led you there? What made them trust you with this? What were you doing at that time in your life that you were like, led you to this? Because obviously this is a soul's purpose, but what got you there?
That's a long story, but I'll try to tell you the really short,
Notes.
quick version. And thank you for asking. I think that everybody comes from someplace different, and we all have different backgrounds and different forging experiences that create the person that we are. And mine was a little bit different. I grew up in a small mountain town in Utah, way up in the valleys that has the ski resorts and the stuff. And I didn't fit in very well. My parents were very progressive thinkers. They came out of Northern California in the early 70s, and they stopped here for skiing. And I grew up in a very religious LDS Mormon community, and they are the most amazing, heartfelt, family-oriented and community-centered people I think I've ever met in my life. But kids are mean anywhere you go.
And you weren't
They
Mormon when you moved there, so you moved into a community that was Mormon.
I really didn't fit in, and I was a little rebel, and I probably created a lot of the problems and the challenges for myself too, but I refused to follow the norm and do what they expected, and everybody did it but me, so I was just always on the outside. So I was always fighting, but I actually came from a medical family. My mom was an ICU nurse. My dad was a director of the ski patrol and first responder, and I came from a long line of medics and different medical people. So I knew from a very young age that healing was like the greatest gift that you could ever give. And turning frowns upside down is what I wanted to do. I was actually really energy sensitive as a young child. I could walk into a room and feel immediately if there's one person that was having a bad day or didn't like me. I could feel people looking at me. I could feel people walk up next to me and know what mood they were in before I said or heard or did anything with my normal five senses. And so I was always constantly bombarded by being an outcast and being in this weird spot and knowing that I was supposed to heal. And anyway, I had some really crazy formulative experiences as I was young. I saw ninja movies in the mid 80s with the mouth dubbing and the stop your dog, I kill you. And they throw the ninja star 100 yards and it hits the guy in the eye and jumps off the building and lands in the superhero pose right into backflips. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to try that. But it didn't work that way for me. I jumped off our horse barn and it was pretty painful and left a big impression on me that movie magic was just that. It was just movie magic. But then I saw Karate Kid and Star Wars, and I saw a group of traveling Shaolin monks that came through our hometown here in Ogden, Utah, when I was like 10 or 12. And they were these little, like 4 foot tall, old, really old monks that were like, they were had so many wrinkles on them. They looked like sun-dried raisins and the shaved head and the orange robes. And they were taking these monstrous big guys, these football players from the university football team, and doing incredible demonstrations with them. Just barely touch them and guys would go flying. And I was like, whoa, that's like Luke Skywalker, but old. It really was intriguing to me, but the next thing really is what caught my interest. They had a lady come out onto the stage she was using a walker and she could barely move. It took her like 5 minutes to get out of the stage and laid her down on the stage, and the guy waves his hand over the top of her like this, and she got up and walked away. And I went, because I had seen my parents being in action in trauma situations, and I knew that healing was a gift. And when I saw these old guys demonstrating these amazing powers, and then I saw them use it for healing, I went, okay, I got to look farther into this. But I was constantly surrounded by always having to fight and defend myself. And it was like a real big contradiction for what was going on in here and what was being forced into me up here. So long story short, I started martial arts about 13 years old, and I spent a long time doing that. I became really accomplished in it. By the time I found the Merpati, the parent martial art of Vibra Vision, I'd done a lot in that world. I had 2 third-degree black belts and a second-degree black belt. I had earned brown belt or higher in 23 other martial arts. I was an undefeated fighter for 6.5 years. I'd worked with military and police and security, and I taught them all the how to hurt people kind of stuff. But what I really wanted was to make people turn upside down and make the world a better place. And then saw an ad in a black belt magazine that said, amazing 2 weeks guaranteed or your money back. I was in my late teens at this time, and I already had a certification list as long as my arm of different energy systems and different things that I'd done. But what I really couldn't find was like people talked about it a lot, but they weren't actually doing it. In fact, they'd talk about being enlightened and then go get in fights and total ego. And I was just like, since I was so energy sensitive, I could see the misalignment.
This is very fascinating, and it gives a lot of people permission because you're reflecting this journey. It's really a journey into discovering these pieces of the evolution of what you're going to do on the planet. So keep going. I love it.
Based in it. So I had this crazy experience where we ordered this thing that said amazing chi in 2 weeks guaranteed or your money back. And I was like, the only other people that I could find that had these abilities were monks and Taoists and yogis. And they said, you got to do what I did. It takes 35 or 40 years, prayer, meditation, and purification. And I was like late teens going, you mean no movies and no McDonald's and no girls? I don't know if I could do that.
But I can do 2 weeks.
Actually, the course was totally bunk. It was basically a ripoff of people watching the practitioners because it'd be like a soccer field and thousands of people all at once doing it. And then, hey, we're going to sell it to dumb Americans for $50. And yeah, they got me. But it came with a video that was absolutely awesome. It showed a bunch of Indonesian martial arts. And even though I was like semi-professional circuit tour tournament guy, I'd never heard like Indonesia, what is that? And it turns out there's a whole lot of martial arts from Indonesia. They were showing this video. They were doing all these amazing demonstrations. And one group, they were doing it all blindfolded. And they were like military soldiers. And I'd worked with the military enough that I knew that they might hide the way that they spend money, but they don't ever spend it on things that don't work. So if these guys were doing it as part of their military, there had to be something real going on here. And these guys were doing fantastic things like running through obstacle courses and fighting and shooting targets and driving cars and riding motorcycles. And I was just like, wait, what? And to boil it down, long process of trying to get a hold of them. This was back when the internet was new, but we sponsored a group over and came and introduced them to the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind, because if we could really make a mark on the world, when I thought about how do I really help the world, I thought about if you were paralyzed or something, you could still see a sunset and paint a picture of it, or watch a movie or play video games. And there's still a lot that you could do with your eyes. But I was afraid of the dark as a young guy. And I imagine closing my eyes and never being able to open them again. So we contacted them to find out if they could help blind people. And that's where the journey started. This is so much more than just being able to see without our eyes. It's truly tuning into who we really are. And the amount of information that our system is taking in is so much more than what our brain can actually process. So they call that subconscious, but actually it's like super conscious, because as I developed this, it's been an odyssey all in itself to bring the Western world something out of the Eastern paradigm and actually make it make sense and be able to put it under the microscope and measure it and say, no, this is real, it's duplicatable, we can measure it and we can do it over and over. So what do we do next? It took a couple decades to put all that into place. But I had one of the top neuroscientists in the world, his name was Jeffrey Fannin. He was Dr. Joe Dispenza's neuroscientist for 8 years. And he was traveling around with Dr. Joe for 8 years, doing all of the brain scans and 3D brain mapping and everything else. And he came to test our athletes and say, what is really going on here? How are you guys seeing without your eyes and through the back of your head and doing all the things that you do? And it totally blew him away, and he'd never seen anything like it. The numbers that he gave me were like this. He says, every single second of our life, we're processing and downloading 40 billion bits of information, but our brain can only handle 2,000. So if you think of that like a bank account, if these were awareness bucks, you have an account that's 40 billion, but you can only spend 2,000. There's a pretty big gap inside of that. And so what I really, I guess, would focus on for this portion of it is how can we open up a little bit more spending power, and how can we unlock what's sleeping inside of us? Because it's already there. We just need access to it.
Wow, this is so incredible. Okay, so take me through what, like when you have someone come through this formula, what you made so that the Western mind can grab a hold of it. Where do you start? Because I think some people are like, yeah, I think on a fundamental level, we all believe in this. At least I do. I don't need proof. I think the soul just knows. But what do you do with an individual that's coming in to really, because belief is everything, right? So how do you start this whole process?
That's such a great question. Thank you, Danette. If I could just back up just a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
please. Yeah.
in that process of doing it, in the traditional method, which I ran the entire traditional system, and right now I'm level 9 in the traditional system. Basically, you have to go through the warrior training first. And out of 10,000 people that start, maybe one will make it to the point that they can actually start the wizard training, which is the advanced energy stuff, which
Really?
they became, as they released it to the Indonesian public, these people became much more in tune with themselves and then the connection that they have with others. But to really go to the next level and be able to perceive and manipulate the outside world, that's the wizard's path. And through this process, I literally promised to the royal family that I would help them share this. But after a couple decades, actually about 13 years of trying to do it the traditional way, I finally went to Indonesia. I gave up everything. I opened a new school. I had my guys running it. And then I went to Indonesia and I lived with the royal family for 6 months and trained with all the top trainers through the special forces, through the entire country to try to distill and figure out what is the magic switch. If we can put our finger on the bullseye, then we can push that button and we'll get it faster. So then I had to go through a process of distilling and trying to figure out, this is a technology, just like a phone. If you push the buttons in the right sequence, magic things will happen, but it's not really magic, it's just tech.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person that's ever been allowed to modify the traditional system because I was literally adopted into the royal family. And so I came back and I was trying to develop it and I had to go, okay, wait a minute, we got to do this differently because if only 1 in 10,000 will actually make it to the point they can start, you don't have a really big group to start and figure out the next step. So I reversed the process and I started off everybody with the wizard training. And then anybody that wants to do the warrior training, they can opt into it and they can do that a little bit farther down the road. And the results have been like nothing short of spectacular. Right before COVID, I figured out how to take 20 years of the traditional process. If you make it that far, which only 1 in 10,000 will, but squish it down and put it into a 5-day immersive event. And I literally came out with 100% success ratio that every single participant was able to not only get to know themselves on a totally different level and get in tune with their higher self or their source for whatever, but also the outside world and be able to get reproducible results. And that's the really big thing. I literally had to make it fun and make it so it wasn't a torture experiment, but it was a game. This is the coolest part. It's like literally the most fun you can have legally still, because I get to take the most stressed out, high D type personality, business executives and parents and people from all walks of life that are living in this crazy, chaotic world and turn them back into kids, giving them a game that gives them feedback. And with that feedback, we can hone it in really quickly. How do we start? The process really, it's based on your bioelectricity because we're all electric living beings. So we create a lot more electricity inside of our body, and that can't come from the outside. You can't just stimulate it, you have to generate it. So we do special breathing exercises combined with meditations. And the breathing exercises make more electricity and then more magnetism, so we have electromagnetic balance. Then we connect it into the parts of our brain that were turned off, that have been sitting dormant, the things that are sleeping inside of us. And that opens up, it's like almost opening one of your eyes. Whoa, what is that? You get a whole new sense of input for our entire system. It's like, maybe a better way if I was talking about tech would be, it's like switching from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2. You go from the satellite to the video game or whatever. And then basically we play games in a step-by-step process that make it fun for you to actually develop the ability. And since you get feedback, we all have these experiences in life, I think, where we have an intuition, a gut instinct, a hunch. We know it in our heart or feel it in our bones or whatever it is that for us, there's something saying, oh, you should choose this one. But then we choose this one. And then later, maybe 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 years later, we get the feedback on it. And it's, oh, dang it, I knew I should have chose this thing.
Exactly.
And what we basically did is figured out how to hack the tech and push the buttons in the right sequence to get you there fast and then play the game over and over. So you get to do it 100 times in a row with no consequence and nothing to lose, but everything to, and then we can ride the performance spiral and just start taking off like the superhumans that we are. And it becomes more and more fun because we're in a state of total love for ourselves and our position in the world and the game of life, which we get to apply this to everything, and it turns into more of a game. So how do we do it? That's a long answer, but I would say here's the first thing is we crank up your body, we balance your body, then we connect it into your mind and balance your mind, and that opens the gateway to the spirit, whatever that might be to you. We become a bigger antenna. And once you start receiving more signals, we go play games and we tune it. We make it so it actually works for you, and you get to do it over and over.
Wow. For those who aren't actually watching and you're only listening, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I've seen, and I've actually talked to people that went to your trainings, is like literally blindfolding and being able to predict colors. It's like people putting out colors and you can actually tell what color's being put out. Or I think numbers too. Those are some of the games that I've witnessed. Is there anything more? Like those are some of the games to teach you how you're interacting in your field using your antenna to connect without your eyes, correct?
You're absolutely right on the money. It gets so much more than that. Literally.
Right. That's a good way to start though, right? One of the ways you're
Well,
showing.
so the vision is really like, that's what the easiest way to bring it to science and say, look, there's something else going on here, because you can absolutely make sure that no magician could cheat this blindfold. There's photon sensors inside, outside. We're not doing any of that. This is a natural human ability, but we're using a different input. And that's really for our life, our entire being. How many of us would like to be able to find our path in life a little easier? Hey, should I make this choice or this choice? Should I date this person or not? Should I become invested in this or do this? Should I go to this school or do this? Really, it's learning to trust ourselves. And then that manifests into multiple different types of superpowers. But yeah, being able to see is one of them. I literally had trained an athlete team that we could do anything that we can do without our eyes, like reading, riding bicycles, driving cars and go-karts, fighting, doing sword fighting, like real life Jedi style. Like we throw all the beanbags or balls at them and they're calling out the colors as they're blocking with lightsabers. There's no limit to the possibilities. Even X-ray vision, they actually use it in Indonesia for search and rescue, because they have every type of natural disaster there, and they're in the ring of fire with all the volcanoes and landslides and whatever. And they can find people that are buried inside the houses because they don't have a whole lot of dogs over there. It's the largest Muslim nation in the world, and they don't do a whole lot of dogs. But they send the special forces through, and they can see exactly who's alive, who's not, where to dig, do all the things. It's really just, it's the next evolution. It's an ancient technology, but it's the next evolution for humanity to know who we are and where we are in the world. And so, yeah, we do all of those different things. It's like having eyes, but it's not actually these physical eyes. It's your sixth sense, or really it's your first sense, what we came in it with. A process of
remembering who we are. That is really fundamental. And let me ask you, I'm going to jump ahead because I'm in this space in my own realm and my own way around healing. I'm going to ask you because do you find this, like, the people come in and you're seeing they're doing incredible things that they didn't realize they had the potential to do, and they're feeling this connection to self, and they're just blown away, right? This is a normal response when they come in through your experiences. And then they go home because this is what happens with so many people. I watch it in different healing experiences, different retreats, different things. And some people, they completely change. They will pivot, their health, their face, their whole body shows the signs of the transformations internally. They might even show up differently in how they relate with their family, whatever. And then there's some souls, they had these profound gifts that were shown to them that they actually have inside themselves. They go home and it's almost as if they forgot. Do you notice that? There's just a few souls that choose to forget, and they keep clamoring through life a little bit and getting stressed out and going job to job, or you know what I'm saying? Why do you think that is?
Wow, that is a really deep question, Danette. Let me quote somebody that was much smarter than me. I cannot remember exactly who it is. It was a president.
That's okay. It's a president.
Is more common than wasted talent. I said, nothing is more common than wasted talent.
Wow.
And this has been my experience through life, and just take it for what it is, because it's only my experience. But easy come, easy go. A lot of times we don't value something unless it actually took some effort. And with that said, we all want to be in a state of flow and abundance and just have everything come to us easily. But the things that we actually value the most are the things that we earn. And in that, I will say, I've experienced that. through my world as well that sometimes some people, I feel like everyone has different talents, strengths, and abilities. Some people can draw or paint and they're really good at visual art. I'm not, but some people are. And some people can play music and I'm not good at that either. And some people can cook. I don't do that either. But I will say that the things that usually come super easy to us, if you're a prodigy at something, it doesn't mean that you're going to do it for your whole life. It's just a part of your journey. And I've had people come through that have an amazing gift for healing or for the vision or for whatever it might be, but they just assume everybody else is going to do it like them. So they don't realize that this is a special thing. And that's actually why usually, not always, but usually natural athletes are terrible coaches because they expect everyone else to get it like them. They don't actually put forth the time to understand how do you get that result out of everybody. And so with that in mind, I definitely feel like the world is full of opportunities and choices and distractions, if you will, that it's easy for people to have an experience but not have it take hold because they immediately go off into something else. And I definitely, the struggle is real. For me, what it's come down to and what it really needs to be developed even farther, and we're in the process of developing this every day, but the support system, the community to keep people on track to doing the things that they're doing. Because old patterns die hard. Sometimes it's like a light switch and this was so powerful, I am never going back. But a lot of times, just like with different substances or different things, if you had a strong addiction, a strong pattern, the chemicals that we're producing inside of our body, they're just as powerful and we become addicted to those. They say misery loves company.
Yeah.
So does love.
Sense.
That's been my experience. But somebody that's stuck in the misery, if you pull them out of love, then it's coming from an outside source. They're not the source of it themselves. They will return back to it. So I think the last piece that I could put onto this that I would say is, have you heard the expression, you can teach a man to fish, or sorry, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime?
Yeah.
Our goal here is to teach everybody how to create their own fish, right? Yeah. But along with that, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
I knew you were going to say that.
Have you heard the human version?
Tell me the human version.
You can lead a person to knowledge or wisdom, but you can't make them think.
So good. That's really good. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question because I'm curious. So this ability in you, because obviously you came from this fighter background, more of a warrior background, then you went and learned about these energies and these abilities that we all have. Has this turning on these abilities made you on a personal level, and maybe even people that you've witnessed now, because you've had a lot of data points coming through, more psychic in general around reading people, reading energy, reading what may be coming? Curious if there's a correlation between the two.
Without a doubt, I would say yes. As far as the individual person's talent for reading things, I got to say, Danette, it is a big world out there that some people are psychic in this way, and some people are psychic in this way, and some people are psychic in this way. There's so many different things that are happening in the world right now with these different type of abilities, whether it's telekinesis, being able to move things, or precognition, knowing what the outcome of a certain random event generator. Sometimes we can see it in social situations. You can see the train wreck before it happens. And you're like, no, but you have to let them.
Yeah.
Those type of things, being able to perceive the bad person with the bad intentions in the room, all of these things really come into awareness. And if you boost your awareness and you get a stronger antenna, literally what I would say is that you can't go wrong. And along with that also comes the other side of, I guess, you can't, if you're not in a space that actually allows you to be you and have the experience and warns you about certain things, because traditionally different modalities have experienced the same thing. When people all of a sudden wake up to a brand new reality, to a new source of input that they didn't have before. This is out of every spiritual system throughout history, there's a point where people feel crazy because they're trying to integrate the new information. They call it Kundalini syndrome or the cuckoos or whatever. There's different things in different systems. But if you know about it and you say, hey, this is going to happen to you, so be expecting it, then there's nothing to worry about and everybody assimilates it more because they're in a playful zone and they're expecting it rather than, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? So for Vibravision, what this really does is it accelerates and really creates a physical reality that you didn't have before, because we generate more electricity and then it heals you from the inside. Your body starts becoming healthy in a way that frees you, that basically you're not distracted and by pain, and that's not causing stress, because the pain causes the stress, and the stress keeps us from being able to access those other brainwave states and be able to tune in and tap into who we really are. And what we do is basically let's balance the body and balance the mind. Now the gates to the spirit open. And there are so many things inside that 40 billion bits per second. I got to say, I've had people read my mind that are not mentalists. They're not doing some type of a magic trick. They literally, how could you pull that out of my head? That's not my talent, strength, and ability. But I also have a personal thing about that. I don't ever look inside someone unless they ask me to, because privacy and boundaries are supposed to be there for a reason. So it's just my own personal thing. I never disrespect someone. But
Interesting.
yeah,
That's so
I feel
okay.
like,
I love this. I want to ask now because Vibra Vision, just so people know, because now people are going to be like, I need to learn about this. I need to understand this. And obviously, I'm going to link everything below, but in the show notes. But I want to ask, is this for anyone, or is there anyone that you would say it's not for?
thank you. We have a no assholes policy.
That's up to discretion. They might be like, I'm a beautiful human. People don't think they smell. They like their own.
You have a good point there.
I
Really,
imagine that people that are going to be called to this, well, at least I think from my area, are going to be really pure souls, because that's what you're emitting. You're really choosing to you're really trying to create love with this, and self-love and understanding and remembering who you are and respect and all of this in the world. You've said it at the very beginning. So even just with that charge, I imagine you're going to get more of that.
we definitely attract the coolest people. I got to say, I'm so
I
blessed.
imagine. Yeah.
With that in mind, usually I'll start them at 13 years old, sometimes 12 or 11 if they're a little bit more mature for the immersion programs, because they're long days and I want them to be ready for it. My oldest student so far, I think, has been 76. So there's a big wide range. It's really when people are ready. And with that also in mind, I will say anybody that it's not for, I really feel like it's for everybody. But I have had some certain cases where I've had to say, hey, I'm sorry, but you're not welcome back. And you can never tell that beforehand. So the biggest way is come with open arms and be ready to experience something new. And if it's not for you, you'll know it. But that's only happened a couple times. And it wasn't that they didn't want to continue. I could tell that there was other things going on inside of them. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry, but you're not being healthy for everybody else. So I got to protect the group, let you deal with your own things. With that in mind, we welcome everybody, because this is not religious or sectarian in any way. Literally, you got to want to be a superhero, not a supervillain. You got to want to be a Jedi, not a Darth Vader. That's pretty much the only requirement that the royal family's ever made for us, that we're sharing this in light and in love. The true key to power is inside. It's not by exerting it on others or the outside world.
Yeah, it's within. It's just a force within.
Loving people, they want you to see how powerful you are. And angry people, or people that are not quite full, they want you to see how powerful they are. And as I will say, I've had some really powerful lessons coming through martial arts and all the ego that was involved in that. And when I first found this, they're the craziest super soldiers doing the craziest things that we can't fathom as not being in there. They're so full of love, and they are the guardians. And that's truly, if there's a warrior spirit inside of you, this will help you reach farther into empowering yourself for love. And the world becomes more magic. I promise. Like I said, there's two ways to find it. The one way is to suffer until you surrender into it, which is the traditional method of all other systems, basically, long meditations or torturous things, that pilgrimages, whatever they are, or go to Disneyland and make it fast and fun. And they weed themselves out if they're not fit for this and they need some more of the other thing, because just as you were mentioning before, some people just aren't ready. And that's okay, because our job isn't to wake up the sheep, it's to find the other lions.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to respect your time. Do you have time for 5 more minutes for me to ask 2 more questions?
Of course. I have a little window after this. So,
okay, because I'm a curious soul, and I am seeing, for those who are not seeing this, I'm seeing behind you these beautiful crystals, lapis lazuli, behind you. And I'm also seeing other crystals. And I want to ask you, what do crystals mean to you?
These are actually, it will be 100% transparent. These are actually my fiance's babies. She just started a new group called Those That Talk to Rocks. And she is
I would
very,
love her.
I think, Danette, we might have to make this happen because she is very powerful in the 3D and the 5D. She's very attracted to different stones. And I could go through, there's so many different things that are hiding back in here,
Yep.
like unbelievable stuff.
I
But
can feel
this
them.
is in a nutshell, they're a different vibratory frequency. And this is Vibra Vision, like literally translated, it means the science of vibration. And there are many different ways that you can change vibration through sound or through oils or through different stones. And these are all external ways of doing things, which is awesome. That's external alchemy. You're changing the vibration frequency by using something from the outside. And to understand it, you can do it from the inside. So this is internal alchemy, and you have the power, because the reason that we can even perceive these things is because they resonate with us in some way. If you can tune to that station, you can then do different things with them. So crystals are very cool antennas. You can use them to do a lot of different things, which I'm not telling you anything that you didn't know, but I'll say that certain rocks vibrate at a certain frequency that you can use to do some really cool things. She's on a new kick right now, like this one.
Yep. That's quartz.
Actually, this is a Himalayan quartz. Never mind. I thought that I was grabbing. Are you familiar with?
Phenakite. I haven't worked with it.
You definitely got to go check out phenakite. Are you familiar with moldavite?
Yes.
Phenakite is like 3 steps up from that on vibratory frequency. And she is literally a dragon. She just wants to get all the treasure, and then she gives it out and gives it to all the most magic people in her life. She just got a ton of this phenakite stuff, and I'd never seen anything like it. Are you familiar with Robert Gilbert? He was the biogeometry.
Oh, yeah.
He just unfortunately passed away, but he was saying, and this is something really interesting because I've had my own interesting experiences with phenakite, but he said phenakite is actually like divine light that got trapped in the Earth's crust. And if you don't know what it is, you'd have no idea, but this is like the most crazy thing in the world. So we went and got some. And if you put it on an ice, like we got a big ice block, you put it on the ice, it will melt a hole through the ice. Yes,
Oh my
it's
gosh. Okay.
unbelievably cool.
And maybe introduce me to your lovely fiance, because I can talk all about that stuff too. Hi, welcome to the show.
This is my lovely bride to be in just a few
What
days.
is your name?
It's Maureen. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I was just asking about the stones behind him because that's something I'm really drawn to. So I was curious at his relationship. And then we got into talking about you and all these amazing stones and your love and passion.
So
Yeah.
I just happened to walk by. I heard, oh, if you put it on ice, it'll go through. And I'm like, oh, that's the phenakite.
So fun. Definitely connect me to you via email. I would love to chat with you, have you on the show. And I just feel like there's just such beautiful allies for those who are drawn to these beautiful stones. They can be beautiful allies. And yeah, I would love to talk with you about that because I can tell you're very passionate and this is really fun.
4 years ago, I started getting into it, and I kept going to this one place. The lady that was running it, she goes, "You're buying all the prosperity stones." I'm like, I am. So when I finish a big project, I do real estate, I'd go get myself a stone like that, lapis lazuli above our head and stuff. So that's how I got started. And I didn't know. They just, oh, you want to come home with me? Okay. So it's just,
Yeah, you have to ask them, do you want me to bring you? Yeah, we definitely
who
have to
wants to go home?
I just was, because I asked him about the lapis lazuli. I like totally blinked. I was like, Egypt. I'm like, it's like this stone, right? And he's lapis lazuli. I'm like, good job.
You are definitely playing in the right sandbox, Danette. Do I do some cool stuff with rocks?
Yeah, Mike is amazing. I feel like I've only scratched the surface. He keeps breaking out. All of a sudden, I don't know what this podcast is about or anything, but he can open them. He can create batteries out of them. He can do some pretty amazing things with them.
All our technology is using these crystals. And that's the thing that I find fascinating. It's supposedly this woo-woo thing, but I'm like, all of our technology mixed with sacred geometry is in everything. And until we get linked up to this, we're going to miss the point because we can become controlled if it's not used in a good way. So I really want to talk about this kind of stuff, particularly on my show, because I just want people to remember. I'm like the same as you. I want people to remember these truths, these fundamental truths with sacred geometry, these mathematical equations, these frequencies with sound, so that we can come back home and come back to our sovereignty.
And tap into our power again. I think
Yeah.
so many things can assist that. This is a piece of Himalayan we got actually in Nepal that I just
Gorgeous.
love. But I told him, I'll leave it here with you for good luck. I just left it. But yeah, we can get crazy. I have a little group of people who talk to rocks, I called it, in WhatsApp. So there's people from all over. They know the miners in Brazil, and so there's there's a lot of people coming out more that are feeling more with the stones and crystals. And
Yeah. For sure. Awesome.
I just
Well,
want to say my favorite thing to get on is that it's not about me, it's about we. And I'm so grateful to you, Jeanette, to bring us together. I know this is not part of the show, but I will never, it's always about creating the most amazing experience. And I hope that this has served you and your audience at the highest level. And I feel like just from this end, there's so much more that we could go into.
I know.
Where are you located, Jeanette?
I'm in the mountains of Colorado. I
Well, we're
lived
the
in
neighbors.
Utah in Midway for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I met my husband who was from Colorado, and his heart is in these deep mountains. So we moved back here, and I love it here too. But we're going to be living part time in Costa Rica as well. Our home's getting done in about 30 days.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Good
Yeah,
to-
thank you.
Yeah, we're in the mountains of Utah, so I get the mountains. He's from Utah. I'm from Connecticut originally, so I totally get, then the guys are in love with the mountains. But that's
Yeah, it's a good energy. I mean, I know the mountains of Utah. I'm speculating you're in Eden area up in those mountains. But
Yeah, we actually have 30 acres in Eden just over the valley. We're in Huntsville, right next door. to
Oh,
Eden.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to know each other more, I'm sure.
You really love rocks. We would love to have you come be our guest. And this place is like a museum. You will have so much fun here
that
with
would
her.
be
I promise.
incredible. All
We-
right, I
we
want to
also
close
have
this
the-
out because we're going to start going off. But what I want to do is ask you one final question. And since you're both here, I'm going to ask you both because you're obviously here for a reason. I want you to imagine that this is your last time on this planet at this time, in this dimension. And there are as many people as the eye can see, and they're here to hear one last thing from you. What is that message?
Probably it's not about me.
Me, it's about we, and don't underestimate how powerful you are. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for your love, your energy, your service, and what an honor to be able to share in this space until we meet in person. I have that feeling. Okay, sending
Oh, I
love.
love it, Light. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys. And thank you so much for being on the show. All of the information will be linked down below to learn more about Vibra Vision and all that you can get involved in this mission and discovering more about you. So sending love until next time. Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now.